You thought it was real. So did they. And yet, it still ended. Not with betrayal. Not with chaos. Just quiet. Just distance. Just absent. You've replayed those final conversations 1,000 times, searching for the moment it broke. The word that shattered everything. The fight that went too far. But what if I told you there was no moment? What if the love was real, and you lost it anyway? Not because you weren't worthy, not because they weren't right, but because you didn't recognize what you were holding. What if true love was one of them, and you let it walk away? Some of the most real connections in your life don't end because of drama. They end because you couldn't receive them. You wanted depth, but didn't know what to do with it when it came. You asked for unconditional love, but couldn't trust it when it showed up. You longed for someone who wouldn't leave, but pushed them away when they didn't. Why? Because if you grew up performing for love, earning affection, or walking on eggshells to keep the peace, true love doesn't feel familiar. It feels foreign. Most of us think love will feel obvious, safe, romantic, warm. But for those of us carrying inner wounds, abandonment, trauma, or a lifetime of proving we're enough, true love doesn't feel obvious at all. It feels too calm. It feels like, I don't deserve this. It feels like waiting for the other shoe to drop. You see, your nervous system was trained to recognize love through struggle, through intensity, through the adrenaline of almost losing it. So when someone loves you without conditions, without drama, without you having to earn it, your system goes, this can't be real. This video isn't about how to keep someone. It's about how to recognize what's already real, so you don't keep pushing it away. Here are the 5 signs of true love, through the eyes of Carl Jung. And if any of these hit something deep, stay with it. Your past self needs to hear this. Sign 1. True love doesn't demand that you perform. It doesn't care how perfect you seem on Monday morning. It doesn't shrink when you break down on Wednesday night. It doesn't reward you for people-pleasing and punish you for being real. That's because true love doesn't speak the language of your wound. Your wound says, love me because I'm useful. True love says, I love you because you exist. Your wound says, I'll be better tomorrow, I promise. True love says, I'm not going anywhere. It sees the mask, but reaches for your face. It doesn't love your potential. It loves your process. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And true love, it doesn't just allow that becoming, it invites it. But here's where it gets confusing. If your inner child only received love through achievement, through being good, through making others comfortable, this kind of acceptance feels wrong. You'll mistake ease for disinterest. You'll feel invisible when you're simply not being judged. You'll create problems just to feel familiar chaos. There was someone once, wasn't there? Someone who never asked you to be different. Someone who didn't need you to fix them, save them, or impress them. And it felt unsettling. Because if they don't need you to perform, then who are you? The part of you that learned to survive through usefulness doesn't know how to exist in grace. Pause here and take a breath. Is this what you've been carrying all along? Sign 2. True love confronts. Not controls, it doesn't manipulate. But it doesn't disappear when things get hard either. True love will hold up a mirror, not a leash. It will ask, is this really you? It will stay when you're messy, but won't enable your self-destruction. It will call you out, not to shame you, but to see you. That feels jarring if you equate love with sacrifice. If your blueprint says love equals saving someone or being saved, then someone who loves you without trying to fix you can feel cold. But it's not cold, it's respectful. Jung wrote, "Where love reigns, there is no will to power. And where power predominates, love is lacking." True love doesn't need to control you. It just wants to know if you're still there. Think about the difference. Control says, "You can't go out with those friends." Love says, "I notice you're different when you're with them. What's that about?" Control says, "You always do this." Love says, "This pattern, does it serve you?" Control needs you to be predictable. Love invites you to be honest. Here's what's hard. If you grew up in chaos, in homes where love was conditional, where emotions were weapons, someone who confronts with curiosity instead of cruelty might feel like they don't care enough, but they care deeply. They just care about your truth more than their comfort. Real love doesn't rescue you from consequences. It walks through them with you. It doesn't say it's okay when it's not. It says, "We'll figure this out." Jung taught that the ultimate act of love is to see someone clearly and choose them anyway. Not the version they present, not the potential they carry, but the actual person, with all their contradictions, standing right in front of you. Sign 3. True love isn't afraid of your shadow. It doesn't run from your sadness. It doesn't flinch when your voice shakes. It doesn't judge your wounds. It recognizes them. Why? Because it has met its own. Love without shadow isn't love. It's projection. Carl Jung taught that until we integrate our shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, hidden, or denied, we'll keep attracting relationships that reveal it. Your shadow holds your rage, your selfishness, your pettiness, your shame. But it also holds your power, your wildness, your authentic voice. Most people run from shadow, in themselves and others. They want the light without the darkness, the joy without the grief, the strength without the struggle. But true love sees the whole picture. It sees the part of you that gets jealous and doesn't call you toxic. It sees the part of you that shuts down and doesn't call you cold. It sees the part of you that's afraid and doesn't call you weak. Instead, it whispers, "I see you, all of you, and I'm not leaving." But here's the twist. If you haven't accepted your own shadow, you'll sabotage anyone who tries to love it. You'll think they're just being nice. You'll feel exposed, not embraced. You'll wait for them to leave once they really know you. Let me tell you about Maya. She'd been in therapy for years, working through childhood neglect, learning to set boundaries. When she met David, she was drawn to his emotional availability, his consistency. But every time he responded to her anxiety with calm presence instead of reactive concern, she felt unimportant. When she shared her deepest fears and he didn't try to fix them, she wondered if he cared. When she had a panic attack and he sat with her in silence instead of offering solutions, she felt dismissed. It took months for her to realize she'd never been loved in her dysregulation before. She'd only been loved when she was okay. David wasn't indifferent to her pain. He was comfortable with it, and that terrified the part of her that believed love required emergency. The shadow doesn't need to be healed to be loved. It needs to be seen. True love doesn't love you despite your darkness. It loves you because of your wholeness. If this part hits something in you, keep going. The next few minutes might feel like a mirror. When something is real, your defense mechanisms activate. Not because it's wrong, because it's right. And right feels dangerous to a system organized around survival. Your body remembers every time love was withdrawn, Every time care came with conditions. Every time you let someone close and they used it against you. So when someone approaches with genuine interest, consistent presence, steady affection, your alarm bells go off. This is too good. Your nervous system whispers, "We'll ruin it anyway." Carl Jung called this the return of the repressed. When love is consistent, warm, and emotionally safe, your old self, the one shaped by survival, goes on high alert. You start waiting for the punishment, the silent treatment, the moment they realize you're too much. You start looking for signs they're losing interest, evidence they're pulling away, proof that this was all too good to be true. But true love doesn't punish your protection. It doesn't disappear when you flinch. It doesn't take your walls personally. It doesn't interpret your testing as rejection. It stays, quietly, not forced, just present. And that's exactly why it hurts. Not because they hurt you, but because your nervous system doesn't know how to receive safety. Safety feels foreign. Peace feels suspicious. Consistency feels boring. You might feel distant, irritable, numb, even bored. But you're not bored. You're overwhelmed by the absence of chaos. You're drowning in peace because you learned to swim in crisis. Jung understood this as what he called an antiodromia, the tendency of things to turn into their opposites. When you've been starved of love, abundance feels overwhelming. When you've been used to struggle, ease feels wrong. Here's what happens. Week 1, they text back quickly. You think they must be desperate. Week 4, they remember what you said. You think they're probably taking notes for later use. Week 8, they don't get angry when you're moody. You think they don't care enough to fight. Week 12, they're still here. You think, what's wrong with them? Week 16, they haven't tried to change you. You think they must not be that interested. Your trauma response doesn't distinguish between good attention and bad attention. It just knows attention is dangerous, attachment is risky, vulnerability leads to pain. So you test them. You pick fights about nothing. You withdraw affection. You create distance just to see if they'll chase you. You become critical. Distant.cold. You stop saying, "I love you" first. Stop initiating plans. Stop showing enthusiasm. And when they don't chase, when they give you space but don't disappear, it confuses every program you've ever run. You're wounded. Parts are screaming, "Chase me! Prove you care! Fight for me!" But they don't. Not because they don't care, but because they understand the game. They know that chasing someone who's pulling away only teaches them to pull away more. They know that fighting for someone who's testing you only teaches them to test you more. They know that proving your love to someone who doubts it only teaches them to doubt it more. True love doesn't chase. It doesn't convince. It doesn't prove. It just remains. Like a tree that doesn't move when the wind picks up. It bends, but it doesn't break. It weathers, but it doesn't flee. Like a lighthouse that doesn't chase ships. It simply shines. Consistently, letting them know where safety is. This is the ultimate test of love. Not how it handles your light, but how it responds to your armor. Jung understood that we don't just attract people. We attract mirrors of our unhealed relationship with love itself. If love felt like possession, you'll test their boundaries. If love felt like performance, you'll test their patience. If love felt like abandonment, you'll test their commitment. If love felt like betrayal, you'll test their trustworthiness. If love felt like judgment, you'll test their acceptance. And true love, it understands the test. It doesn't take your triggers as rejection. It takes them as information. It says quietly, "This is where you were hurt. This is what you're afraid of. Let me show you something different. Not through words, through staying. Not through promises, through presence. Not through fighting for you, through remaining available. Not through convincing you of their love, through being loving. Think about the last time someone stayed when you were difficult. Not out of duty, not out of fear, but because they saw your protection for what it was. Love trying to keep itself safe. How did that feel? Probably terrifying, because when someone doesn't abandon you in your worst moment, you have to face a devastating possibility. Maybe you are worthy of staying for. Maybe your walls aren't necessary anymore. Maybe it's safe to love back. Maybe this time is different. And maybe this time is different is the most dangerous thought your wounded self can think. Because if this time is different, it means all those times before weren't your fault. It means you weren't too much. You weren't unlovable. You weren't broken. It means you were just unlucky. And if you were just unlucky, then you deserve to be lucky now. But deserving feels impossible when you've spent years believing you don't. So you sabotage. You create the familiar. You ensure that this time isn't different, so you don't have to face the possibility that you're worthy of different. Jung called this the eternal return, the compulsive repetition of familiar patterns even when they're painful. The devil you know feels safer than the angel you don't. So ask yourself, did you lose them because they were wrong for you? Or because they didn't feel wrong enough to be familiar? Did you push them away because they hurt you? Or because loving them would mean healing parts of yourself you weren't ready to face? Did you create problems because there were problems? Or because peace felt too foreign to trust? True love triggers your fear of love, and then stays long enough for that fear to soften. The question isn't whether love will trigger you. The question is whether you'll let it stay long enough to show you something new. Whether you'll let it love you in the ways you weren't loved before. Whether you'll let it prove that not all love leaves when things get real. That some love deepens when you reveal your truth. That the right love doesn't need you to be perfect to be worthy. It just needs you to be present. And you are. You're here. You're listening. You're learning. That's already enough. Real love doesn't save you from yourself. It returns you to yourself, often painfully. It says, I don't want the version of you that performs. I want the one that's still learning to be whole. That's not a fairy tale. That's alchemy. Carl Jung called this individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you actually are, not who you think you should be. True love holds space for that becoming. It doesn't erase your loneliness. It honors it. It doesn't eliminate your shadow. It helps you integrate it. It doesn't complete your sentence. It waits for you to find your voice. It doesn't fill your emptiness. It teaches you that the emptiness is sacred space. Most of us have been taught that love means losing yourself in someone else. Merging. Becoming one. You complete me. I can't live without you. You're my other half. These phrases sound romantic, but Jung understood them as symptoms of psychological immaturity. Two half people don't make one whole relationship. They make codependency. They make fusion. They make two people who lose themselves in each other and then blame the other person when they can't find themselves. True love is the meeting of two complete individuals who choose to walk side by side while remaining rooted in their own inner truth. It doesn't ask, what do you need me to be? It asks, who are you becoming? It doesn't say, I can't live without you. It says, I choose to live with you. It doesn't demand, complete me. It declares, I'm already whole, and so are you. Jung spent his entire career studying what he called the self, not the ego, but the deeper, more authentic core of who we are. He understood that the self is already complete, already whole, already perfect in its imperfection. The work of a lifetime isn't to find someone to complete us. It's to remove everything that's blocking us from recognizing our own completeness. And true love, it's a mirror for that recognition. When you're with someone who loves you this way, you'll notice something unsettling. You can't hide, not because they won't let you, but because hiding feels unnecessary. Your anxiety, they're not afraid of it. Your sadness, they don't need to fix it. Your anger, they don't take it personally. Your joy, they don't need to own it. Your dreams, they don't need to control them. Your fears, they don't need to talk you out of them. For the first time, maybe ever, you get to exist as you are, not as who you should be, not as who they need you to be, not as who the world expects you to be, just as you are. And that revelation can be overwhelming, because if you've spent your whole life contorting yourself to be lovable, being loved for who you actually are feels like cheating, like you're getting away with something, like they haven't figured you out yet, like you're fooling them somehow. But you're not fooling them. You're revealing yourself, and they're not being fooled. They're choosing to see you. This is what Jung meant by the transcendent function. Love that transcends the ego's need to be perfect and returns you to your essential self. The ego wants to be loved for its achievements, its performance, its usefulness, but the self wants to be loved for its being, its essence, its existence. True love loves the self, not the ego. And if you've been living from ego for most of your life, being loved for yourself can feel illegitimate. But I haven't done anything to deserve this. But I'm not that special. But I'm not that interesting. But I'm not that valuable. These thoughts arise not because they're true, but because you've forgotten that love isn't something you earn. It's something you are. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and true love is the mirror that shows you who that is. Not who you could be if you tried harder, not who you would be if you were better, but who you already are, right now, in this moment, flawed, learning, growing, imperfect, human, and somehow, mysteriously, perfectly lovable, exactly as you are." Take a moment. Journal this. What parts of yourself do you hide in relationship? What would it feel like to be seen there? What if those parts aren't bugs to be fixed, but features to be loved? There was someone, wasn't there? Someone whose texts didn't make your stomach flip with anxiety. Someone who didn't play games, didn't leave you guessing, didn't keep you walking on eggshells. Someone who listened when you spoke, really listened. Someone who remembered the small things, who showed up when they said they would, who meant what they said. Someone who asked about your day and actually wanted to hear the answer. Someone who could sit in comfortable silence with you. Someone who made space for your feelings without making them about themselves. Someone kind, and you pulled back. Not because they weren't enough, but because you didn't believe you were. You'd spent so long in relationships that felt like emergency rooms, all crisis and adrenaline, and never knowing if the patient would survive. That when someone approached you like a garden, you didn't know what to do with the quiet growth. You mistook their consistency for boredom, their respect for distance, their patience for indifference, their trust for indifference, their calm for disinterest. You wanted them to fight for you. But when they didn't need to, when their love wasn't desperate or demanding, you felt overlooked. You wanted them to need you. But when they loved you without losing themselves, you felt unnecessary. You wanted them to complete you. But when they invited you to complete yourself, you felt abandoned. You wanted them to save you. But when they trusted you to save yourself, you felt unsupported. You wanted them to fix you, But when they loved you unfixed, you felt unseen. So you tested them. You withdrew affection to see if they'd chase you. They gave you space. You picked fights to see if they'd fight back. They stayed calm. You created drama to see if they'd save you. They trusted you to save yourself. You acted cold to see if they'd warm you up. They respected your temperature. You pushed boundaries to see if they'd control you. They held their own. And slowly, quietly, you convinced yourself they didn't care, when the truth was simpler and more devastating. They cared in a language you hadn't learned yet. The language of respect rather than rescue, of presence rather than possession, of invitation rather than invasion, of trust rather than control, of love rather than need. They loved you like a whole person, and you were still learning to be one. They loved you like someone who deserved love, and you were still trying to earn it. They loved you like someone who was already enough, and you were still trying to be more. So they let you go, not because they stopped loving you, but because they wouldn't force you to receive what you weren't ready for. They understood that love can't be convinced into someone. It can only be received by someone who's ready to receive it. And you weren't ready. You were still fighting wars that were already over, still protecting yourself from people who were already gone, still trying to earn something that was being given freely, still trying to prove something that didn't need proving. And now, maybe months or years later, you understand. You see the pattern, the way you confuse intensity with intimacy, drama with depth, need with love, crisis with care, emergency with love. You see how your wounded parts still reach for familiar pain because it feels more real than unfamiliar peace. You see how you've been rejecting the very thing you claim to want, how you've been turning away from the very love you've been praying for, how you've been pushing away the very person you've been asking the universe to send. This video isn't a guilt trip. It's a recognition that love may come again. And next time, you'll know what to look for. Next time, when someone doesn't need to be saved, you won't assume they don't need you. When someone doesn't chase, you won't assume they don't care. When someone loves you without emergency, you won't create one. When someone treats you with respect, you won't mistake it for indifference. When someone gives you space, you won't interpret it as abandonment. When someone trusts your process, you won't experience it as neglect. Because you'll finally understand, true love doesn't feel like falling. It feels like landing. It doesn't feel like losing yourself. It feels like coming home. It doesn't feel like being rescued. It feels like being recognized. It doesn't feel like being completed. It feels like being seen. It doesn't feel like being fixed. It feels like being loved. And maybe, just maybe, you're ready for that now. Maybe you're ready to let love be easy, to let someone care about you without crisis, to let someone stay without drama, to let someone love you without emergency. Maybe you're ready to stop earning love and start receiving it, to stop performing love and start being it, to stop chasing love and start recognizing it. The love you lost. It taught you something valuable. It taught you what love actually looks like when it's real. So you'll know it when you see it again, and you will see it again. So, what do you do now? You pause, you breathe, you forgive yourself for not knowing what you hadn't learned yet. You stop chasing the loudness and begin noticing the quiet presence that doesn't try to impress. You learn to recognize love not by intensity, but by integrity, not by adrenaline, but by stillness. Not by how much it needs you, but by how much it sees you. Not by how much it completes you, but by how much it reveals you. Not by how much it saves you, but by how much it trusts you. Because when it's real, it doesn't chase, It doesn't happen. It doesn't perform. It doesn't prove. It just is. Like morning light that doesn't announce itself but gradually illuminates everything. Like a tree that doesn't apologize for growing but simply reaches toward what it needs. Like breath that doesn't force itself but flows naturally, sustaining life. Like the ocean that doesn't try to convince the shore of its depth but simply meets it again and again with consistent presence. Jung reminded us, your vision becomes clear when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. You don't need more love. You need clearer eyes to see it. You don't need someone to complete you. You need someone who recognizes your completeness. You don't need someone to save you. You need someone who trusts your ability to save yourself. You don't need someone to fix you. You need someone who loves you unfixed. You don't need someone to chase you. You need someone who chooses you. And when you find that person, or when they find you, you'll know. Not because it feels familiar, but because it feels true. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. Not because you deserve it, but because you recognize it. Not because it completes you, but because it reveals you. The love you're seeking isn't hiding from you. You've just been looking in the wrong direction. Stop looking for the love that feels like your wounds. Start looking for the love that feels like your healing. Stop looking for the love that needs your brokenness. Start looking for the love that sees your wholeness. Stop looking for the love that requires your performance. Start looking for the love that invites your presence. It's closer than you think, and you're ready for it now. You're ready to be loved without earning it. You're ready to be seen without performing. You're ready to be chosen without chasing. You're ready to be held without holding on. You're ready to be home without hiding. If this message resonated with you, if you see yourself in these patterns, if you're ready to recognize love differently, like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because the world needs more people who know how to recognize real love, who understand the difference between intensity and intimacy, who can tell the difference between drama and depth, who know that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. And remember, the next time love walks into your life, quietly, consistently, without drama or emergency, don't mistake its peace for indifference. Don't mistake its calm for coldness. Don't mistake its respect for distance. Don't mistake its trust for neglect. Don't mistake its wholeness for incompleteness. That's not boredom. That's home. That's not indifference. That's love. Carl Jung's final wisdom echoes through time. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your next relationship isn't about finding someone new. It's about becoming someone who can recognize what's real, someone who can receive what's being offered, someone who can love and be loved without losing themselves, someone who understands that true love doesn't complete you. It reveals you, and now you can. You're ready. The love you've been seeking has been seeking you too. And when you meet each other this time, you'll both recognize what you're holding. And you won't let it walk away, because you'll finally understand what Jung knew all along. Love isn't something you find, it's something you become. And you're becoming it now.